I'm Mikulic Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real-life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. At 43 years old, Sandra Mikulic decided to lace up and start running. She's run 6 marathons and 2 50-kilometer races in 6 years and started a 5-kilometer streak on January 1st of 2019. That has helped her to heal trauma and self-loathing. Sandra is a self-proclaimed plus-sized runner and now magazine publisher of the first ever fitness magazine for the unconventional athlete, and she's not shy to talk about her 260-pound size body. And also, she helps inspire thousands of women on Instagram to move in the body that they have today and not wait for a thinner body tomorrow. So please welcome to the show, Sandra Mikulic.
Thank you, Mikulic. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for saying yes and agreeing to come on and share your healing journey with us.
It's my pleasure, honestly, and thank you for having me in this space that you've created over the last 6 years. I'm honored to be able to share this platform with you today, and let's just get into it. I can't wait.
Yes. So I usually like to start the show by going back to your childhood before we get to where you are presently, just so we can understand better, because we all know like our present day behaviors and trauma responses and all the things that we do are very connected to our childhood wounds, childhood traumas, any of the things that we experienced as a child, our childhood conditioning. So I would love to know, before society tried to limit you or tell you who or what you should be, when our imaginations were vivid and running wild, who did Sandra want to be as a child?
Oh my God, I've never been asked this question, and it's such a good question. Wow. Little Sandra, wanted to be free as possible, without any limitations set on her based on her body size. She wanted to play outside, run wild. She wanted to be told that she is worthy just as she is, and not worthy if she became this or if she looked like this. And that's who Sandra really is. And I think that's why I love running so much, is because it reminds me of the little girl who didn't get to play in the mountains or in the trails or outside freely.
Wow. I love that. And that is so powerful. It's interesting how the things we didn't get to do as children, how doing them as adults helps heal those childhood wounds, helps, hug that little girl inside to let her know it's okay to do those things and be all those things that she wanted to be. So I would love if you could share with the listeners, like how you even got into running. I know it's been about 6 years since both of our lives were transformed. So I would love if you could share that with the listeners.
Yeah, that is so serendipitous that, both our journeys started 6 years ago. And So I was not born in Canada. I was born in Croatia. Actually, not Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina. I just say it's Croatia because it's just next door. And most people don't know Bosnia-Herzegovina. And then I came here when I was 6 years old. So my parents didn't speak any English and were immigrant parents and did not let me go outside very much at all. And if I did, I had to bring my little sister and babysit her and watch her. And I apologized to her for maybe flipping her upside down to show off to friends because that was the only way that I could maybe get attention is by. So anyways, that's another story. My poor little sister. But, so, my parents wanting to hide us or not allow us to be as free as children, who were 6, 7, 8, 9 years old should have been free at that age. I think really set the tone for what the rest of my life was going to look like until I put it back into my own hands. So also, I'm a 5'11", just to kind of give a description of me. I'm a 5'11" woman right now and 260 pounds. And when I was little, I was not overweight. I was just a normal sized kid. Big boned, but I was normal sized. I don't know. Like I just, but my mom thought that I was looking too big. So probably from the age of, I want to say 10 to 12, probably 12 years old when she took me to the Bay and we had to go into the women's section because I had to get a confirmation dress because it was my confirmation. And she was so upset because she had to buy the women's sized dresses instead of the children's dresses. So that's kind of when it all started. And, probably from that point on, I played sports in school, but as a young adult, I would use exercise as a way to try and control my weight. So I was always kind of active. I played basketball. I did track. I can't say I ran. It was like slow. I was like pulling a hamstring and trying to run as fast as the other kids because tall girls didn't do the 200-meter sprints. It was painful. I did shot put and discus and that, but there was always like a bit of athleticism in me. And then after I have 4 children, and after I had each of the children, I remember there was a phase where I was like, oh, okay, I got to go and work out now because I got to lose all this baby fat. And it was just always there, like pecking at me like a woodpecker, like this notion of, okay, you have to get yourself in order and, blah, blah, blah. But the other thing that happened after having the children was postpartum was pretty severe. And I had really severe anxiety, like to the point where it would ruin relationships because of my thoughts were so obsessive that I had to go on medication after consultation with some doctors. And it was the best decision I ever made and I've been on this medication for 9 years, anxiety medicine. So anyways, fast forward, I bought this treadmill when I was 42 in the fall, put it downstairs in our basement. And I used the treadmill as a warm up to do the YouTube videos in the basement. And then what ended up happening was I started spending more and more time on this treadmill. So I would look at YouTube videos and I would watch documentaries. So around October 2017 was when I bought the treadmill, and March 18th, 2018 was the very first run I went outside on in the trails since high school.
Wow.
And I swear to you, I came back a different person. It was a 7-kilometer run. I went out 3.5, came back 3.5. I don't know what happened, but I was like, oh my God, sign me up for the Olympics. And I don't know if you see any like videos where it's like what I think I look like and then what I look like videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're true. It's so true. Because what we think we look like, and then you see like the person shuffling along. Yes, that was me. And that was it. March. After that run, I signed up for 5 local races.
Wow.
And when you're an all or nothing person, probably like, right?
Yep.
You have a podcast. You didn't just dabble into podcasting. You have like a mega podcast, right? So we're an all or nothing person. You just go all in, and you only look later to see if you've hurt yourself along the way. You just keep going. You're running through the wall. And that's literally what happened. And in 2018, I decided, you know what, I'm going to do a marathon. So I did my first marathon in 2018, and I've done one ever since then. So that's 6 years. And there's something in the running community called a streak. And so, I had decided, so this ties into, my trauma work. So I saw this streak thing and I was like, oh. So a streak is defined by Running World magazine as a 1 mile run every single day. And I was like, okay, I don't feel like running every day. Like, even if it's a mile, I'm not committed to that shit. Like, no.
Yeah.
But what I did commit to was a 5 kilometer every day. Because I'm like, no, I'm not doing a 1 mile every day, but I'll do a 5 kilometer walk or run or walk every day, even if I'm sick. So I have been sick a couple of times, and let me tell you that, let me show you how slow you can walk if you had to walk, because I've done it. And you still get your 5K in. And so that was January 1st, 2019 was when I started my 5 kilometer streak. And I'm going to hit day 2000 on June 23rd.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's changed
my
life as you can, you know, it hasn't changed the physical structure of me, but it's changed the physical structure of my brain. I haven't lost any weight, but I've lost self-loathing. I've lost feeling low self-worth. I've lost all the negativity. I've lost the self defamating self I can't remember that word. Thoughts.
Yep.
It's at the tip of my tongue. But yes, so those are all the things that I've lost, but not the weight, because I just am not in a calorie deficit, and that's still one of the puzzles that I'm not in a hurry to solve. Because a lot of people are like, you run so much or you do so much activity, why haven't you lost weight? Well, because I haven't wanted to. I haven't gone into a calorie deficit. I'm in a maintaining stage. I maintain really well. I'm good at maintaining. I've maintained this physique now
consistency
for 6 years. Ask me all about maintaining, I'll tell you.
that speaks to your consistency. Okay.
Exactly. See, I knew you'd appreciate that. Some trolls don't appreciate that on the internet.
Don't get me started with the trolls. That's their own self-loathing. That's their own self-doubt, their own insecurities, things that they need to work on. Most definitely. So much that you said there that I want to unpack. I want to start with after you had each child and you feeling like you needed to lose the baby weight and dealing with postpartum. All of that in itself is a lot of pressure. I have 3 kids. I get it. And for any woman who is presently listening, going through that, because there are some young women in my DMs experiencing postpartum right now. And, they're reaching out because my daughter just had a baby. Well, she's almost 8 months now, but, feeling like they need someone to share those experiences with, the heaviness, the emotions, all those things. If you could just share some of the things that helped you get through that, and then we'll get into the running part?
Um, when there were thoughts in my head that um, somebody was going to climb through the window of the place where we were living, and I was living right next door to my parents, and they had a duplex, and my husband was working out of town for 10 years.
Wow.
And the thought that I had was that my dad wasn't going to be able to hear me scream, and so I didn't know
Mm,
which kid to save. And it was impossible to get to sleep. Impossible to get to sleep at night. And this was especially after my fourth one. When I had my daughter, because I have 3 boys and a girl, that was the worst
mm,
postpartum that I had. And I'm wondering if it's because she's a female and I'm a female and the chromosomes, like I'm just, that's
mhm,
just my grade 9 science brain. I don't know. But
mm,
when I had and then the last one also probably because my husband was away, he would work 2 weeks away and come home, for 5 days or something like that. I just knew I needed help. And I went to my doctor and she's like, oh, and we were living in Burnaby, BC at the time. And she's like, oh, there's a postpartum, there's a postpartum group that I can get you signed up to. And I was like, oh my God, yes, please. And that's when I met a female doctor who was a specialist in postpartum. And then she ended up taking me on as a patient and took probably a few months to actually diagnose me and then give me
mm,
this medicine, which is one of the oldest kinds of anxiety medicines. It's not just one of those ones the doctor pulls out of his pocket, like Wellbutrin
mhm,
XL or some shit like that. And it's like, here, try this. And it's like, you had a 5-minute conversation with me.
mhm,
So after I spoke to her, I realized that I just realized that I'm not crazy. Like I'm not,
mhm,
there's nothing wrong with me. My, whatever it is, my nervous system or my brain cells, they're just not, there's a short there.
mhm, mhm,
And it just made me feel relieved because all these years I had been so hard on myself thinking I am a horrible mother. I do feel like I was completely different with my first 2 firstborns than I was with the last 2.
mhm,
And, I'll never be able to change that. And I've apologized to them many, many times. Um, and I try to, make up for it now. But the more you show your children that mistakes are inevitable, it's how we bounce back from from the mistakes that shows your true character. It's not
mhm,
how much you hide your mistakes from people
mhm,
or how strong you can look in the face of those mistakes. It's how you react to them. That's the most important thing. And that's one of the things I want them to remember about me is that.
mhm. There's so much you said there, like that I wanted to highlight. One, in terms of dealing with the postpartum and um, having someone confirm or validate for you that you're not crazy, definitely needed. Two, the group where it's community. We talked about this before we started recording. Like we
Mhm.
heal best in community. So that
Mhm.
community, the social proofing, it helped
Yeah.
to validate these are real feelings. I'm not crazy. This is not a one-off, all those things. So I want the women that are listening, to highlight those points where one, you need someone who makes you feel seen, heard, and understood. And two, that sense of community, because that's a huge pillar in our ability to be resilient. But also when you spoke about your children, I can completely relate. So each one of our children will experience a different part of us based on where we are in that moment in time. And I feel like for me personally, because my deepest healing is happening now, my youngest child is getting the best version of me. the aware version of me, the healed version of me. Whereas, like you said, you apologize to the previous children and you try to make up for certain things. But at the end of the day, we were doing the best we could then with the tools and the knowledge that we had at that time. But knowing now that you can't change the past, you can apologize for what you've done and you're now doing differently. It's up to them now at this point for them to accept that and to also do their own healing, because no matter how hard we try as a parent, like there's no rule book for parenting because every child is different. So no matter how hard we try as a parent, we are going to make mistakes. We're human beings. We are not we're not perfect. And even if one thing worked perfectly for one child, it may completely do the opposite for the other child, right? So we have to be able to give ourselves some grace and be gentle with ourselves on our own healing journey, because children are brutal. Like, we can be
no, it's not even, it's not even that children are brutal. Honestly, I think you bring a child into this world and that child is fucking pure magic. They are pure innocence and pure bliss. And then you put that child in society.
Yes.
Society is what's poisonous.
Yes.
Children are, oh, I don't know if Marina's going to listen to this, but I have a very strong connection to Marina's baby, who is now 9 months, really strong connection to her. And it's probably my future grandma kind of connection coming out as a predicament of what I will be like as a grandma. And I feel sorry for my kids who might have children as a precursor to what I will be like, because I now understand why some grandparents are the way they are, because you're wanting to make up for, lost time. But I'll give you another example of how, so my daughter is half the size of me, less. She's 5'11" and she's probably 120 pounds. So if I could have birthed the perfect model looking kid, it was her. But I guarantee you that she had a worse high school experience than I ever did, because of the way that society is today.
Yes.
Sure, I got called butch and, names here and there, but she was like ostracized, and like girls would, and especially now with social media, they don't just leave it at school. It's like, oh no,
the bullying is
coming
intense.
home, and then we're going to create like a page. So, this society makes children have really, really challenging atmospheres to try to be children in. They really do. They have no chance. These kids, they have no chance.
Yeah. I was listening to, I think it was a Jay Shetty episode, and he was talking about how today we consume more information in like a month than like 25 years ago that they experienced in their entire lifetime, right? So our children, like, there are some people who may not be aware or don't, I guess, care about mental health or any of those things, to understand, like, they are overwhelmed. All of the mental health struggles that these kids are having, the depression, the anxiety, like all of these things, they have every right to be overwhelmed. There was a point I could say maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago where I didn't understand, as before I started my heavy healing, but I get it now, where the pressures that they have today are so much more intense than the pressures that we had, because of social media, because of technology, because of, all of the access that they have to things, or how far they can spread things, how quickly they can spread things, how things can go viral. So the pressures that our kids have today are so different than, what we had, or what in the days when people were living out in the wilderness and they were trying to survive because of wild animals. Like the stress levels are very intense for our young people. So I get, society can be very cruel. But also I wanted to, I guess, also bring it back to your running journey. And,
Yeah.
cause you're talking about, we're talking about trolls, but we're also talking about like, you lost the self-loathing, you lost the, all the negative self-talk, you lost all of those things. But then you mentioned that you didn't lose any weight. And I personally don't think there's anything wrong with that. I feel like you are who you are supposed to be right now. But because of social media, because of society, because of the negativity or the work that other people have to do, the projections that they may put onto you. Like, I guess, how have you handled dealing with that?
Yeah, so I think the first thing that, for some people, when they see me, for some trolls, when they've seen me, is my stance that I've taken on accepting myself conflicts with the premonition that they were fed as whether it's a household or society, that if you exercise, you should lose weight. Or some people, you should lose weight, therefore you should start exercising. So my stance that I've taken conflicts with that. There's some people who are really freaking close-minded, so they're like all over it. I just want to give you my opinion. And well, okay, thanks, Bob. Or thanks, Karen. Yeah, thanks. You know what? Thanks for that comment, because you just made my video go viral. So I'm going to use your comment to make another video with it. And that's how I've dealt with trolls. The other thing is that there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score.
Oh, love that book.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So there's a quote in there that I frequently quote, and it goes like this: use your body to have visceral experiences that contradict the helplessness and rage you feel.
Say that again.
Use your body to have visceral experiences that contradict the helplessness and rage you feel. So I felt rage, anger, bitterness for the longest time, and it was held inside my body all the way from 12 years old, probably 10. I don't remember any of my childhood. There's only 2 moments that I remember, and 2 moments up to 6 years old is not good. But that's another story. And so all this rage that I held inside me was coming out, in my parenting, etc., right? So when I started running, because we hold things viscerally and we hold things in our nervous system, and in our nervous system, it's programmed to create patterns for us that already are pre-exist. So the patterns that I had created from a small age that pre-existed in my nervous system were: I quit things, I don't follow through on things, and I self-loathe. I think the worst of myself. Those are my patterns. So when I started that streak, I just want to tell you how that nervous system was screaming every day. What are you doing? What the fuck do you think you're doing? Who the hell do you think you are doing a 5K every day? Are you kidding me? You're going to quit this. That was year 1. Year 2, this nervous system was like, oh my God, lady, you are ridiculous. Okay, you did 1 year. You think you're going to do year 2? And it was like, okay, whatever, just do it. Literally, these are the thoughts going on in my brain. And here I am on the street outside by myself. And these thoughts are going on in my brain. And there were nights where I was crying. There were nights where I did the 5K at like 10 o'clock at night. One year we had a flood and the whole downstairs is being renovated because we had this flood and my daughter was graduating, but it wasn't a real graduation because I couldn't watch her walk on the stage because it was fucking COVID. All this shit. And I'm out there doing my 5K. It was the loneliest thing, the loneliest journey. Anybody who's ever gone on a journey to change themselves, it is one of the loneliest things that you can do, which is why we seek community, which is why you started the podcast. I started my Instagram because you don't want to feel lonely. Mm-hmm. And year 3 was the year of change. And that was the year. So 2019 was the first year, 2020 was the second year, 2021 was the year that, towards the end of the year where real change happened, where I started to talk back to that nervous system. And I was like, what are you talking about? I am a real runner. Cause one day this asshole was like, you're not a real runner cause you only do 5K.
What?
Like, this is my brain. And I was like, okay, are you reaching much? Oh, you're reaching. You can't find anything else to say to me. Literally, this is me going. But after year 3, that was when really things changed. And then in year 4, so in year 3, I decided to do the magazine. So I decided to publish my magazine, and it started like at the end of 2021. In February 2022, the first issue was published. But the reason I said that quote is because what the running did was, you know how there's certain therapies where you're supposed to shake your body?
Oh, somatic.
That's what the running, yes. That's what the running did for me. But I didn't know it was doing that. Yeah. I had no idea that what I was doing, I was actually healing and going through my own therapy. That's why this is so mind-blowing to me and I'm not saying that everybody should go start a 5K every day, but I'm saying that everybody should start moving their body every day.
Yes. Absolutely.
And stick to it every day, and you will see what happens to you. You will see that your nervous system is going to try and resist that, especially if you have difficulty sticking to things. It will do everything in its power to make every excuse in the book for you to stick to it. And that's how I lost the self-loathing, was I started to trust myself. Every time I did a 5K, I didn't break a promise to myself. And I realized I had no idea that I was breaking promise to myself, in the last, from 18 to 43 when I started running. So in a nutshell, that is my journey. I mean, there's
like such a beautiful journey. There is so much you said there that I actually want to highlight that I'm like, do I even have enough time? Let me see if I can start from the beginning. My memories, I'm getting old. Okay.
You're not getting old.
I'm 44. I have a granddaughter.
You're a glamour.
So thank you. When you were talking about the trolls, because I want to highlight that, because I feel like, there's a lot that I want to highlight, but I feel like sometimes it's very easy when we're on social media to be emotionally affected by the trolls. And for those that are listening, because you talked about the trolls and people being closed-minded, like a closed mind can't accept new ideas because it's like that door is closed. There's nothing, they won't allow anything in. So arguing back with them and doing all those things, you're just like wasting energy. So the people who are listening, who are on social, who give their valuable time and energy to these trolls, unless you can find a way to flip it positively, like you said, where you use it to, make a new video and to inspire and to make a greater impact, that is wonderful. But to use your energy to go back and forth, waste of time. They're not open to it. Two, when you mentioned The Body Keeps the Score, I love that book. I read the audio and I have the physical book. I feel like it helped me understand and heal a lot of things within my body as well. And there's another doctor, Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I love his work. He mixes science and spirituality. And for me, that's very important because I feel like both worlds have kept things so apart. But if they were to combine that information, they would have so much solutions for so many things in the world.
Yeah.
But I was watching one of his videos this weekend, and in it, because we were talking, like he was talking about like affirmations and frequency and things like that. And it's like a lot of people have a hard time with affirmations because they're saying all these positive things, but they're not seeing changes in their life. And he was saying that we only accept, believe, and surrender to the thoughts that are equal to our emotional state. So our emotions are a label for the vibration that we're on. Right. So if we are happy, we're on a high vibration. If we're sad and we're angry, we're on a low vibration. So when we're in this low vibration and we're in this heavy emotional state, we can't accept the things, the positive information, the positive energy, all those things that are coming to us because we're not in vibrational harmony with those things. And then you were talking about I guess the struggle of even being consistent with the runs in the beginning, right? And I'm presently listening to Sarah Jake's new audiobook called Power Moves. But in it, she says, just because you got it done doesn't mean that you didn't come undone in the process. So people have this perception that you being courageous or you doing something vulnerable, or you doing all these big things is because you have no fear or because you have all of these other positive things. It's like my example would be me being extreme introvert and being diagnosed with anxiety. But when I go on big stages or speak in front of big audiences or do these things, people are like, oh, like you're an extrovert. There's no way. And, you look confident doing it. It's like, no, I am shaking inside. My heart rate is 145. Like I'm not okay, but I'm feeling the fear and I'm doing it anyway. Which makes me think of Susan Cain's quote that courage is fear walking. It's, the fear exists, but we are moving in the fear to get to the other side where the rewards are, which makes me think of your example of how you just broke down each year of you running, working through the process of, your thoughts, working through the negative thoughts that were in your head. And each year, even though you were being consistent, you fighting your own thoughts, your own self to push through and get to the other side. And it's like all change is uncomfortable at first, messy in the middle, but beautiful in the end. We can't stay the same and change at the same time. Like there's so much you said that I want to highlight.
Oh my God. And I actually have to correct myself, not correct myself, but I have to add in a, what's that called? A preface. Yeah. So the preface that I want to add in when I go back and talk about how I was talking to myself, it's because I was listening to these two podcasts. Oh my God. And that was what also changed me. So the quote from Dr. Bessel van der Kelk changed me. The second thing that changed me was the first podcast that Andrew Huberman did with Rich Roll. And that was where I heard about neuroplasticity. And he talked about, so my whole life, my mom told me that I don't have any willpower, which is why I didn't stick to anything. So I was like, okay, I'm going into this and I'm like, I don't have any willpower, but I really did. And willpower has nothing to do with it. But it was that podcast with Andrew Huberman and Rich Roll. I think it's like number 359. It's back in 2019 or 2018 that they recorded it. So it's the first one, not the second one. That was where he explained that your body, when you try to break a pattern, the reaction that your body shows you is agitation, frustration, and opposition. I was like, what? I rewound that section of the podcast and I was like, oh my gosh, mind blown. I was like, so you're telling me that my natural reaction to wanting to stick to something is completely scientific and it has nothing to do with willpower? Oh my gosh. So that was when I realized, aha, this is what's going on. The third thing, the third evidence that I had towards me continuing on this journey was listening to Atomic Habits.
Yes.
And it was about stacking evidence.
Mm-hmm.
What was the previous evidence that you stacked against yourself to confirm that you lacked that characteristic? What is the new evidence you're going to stack for yourself that is going to confirm that you are in fact that person? So you being an introvert and being able to go on stage, you continuously stack evidence to confirm that you are a speaker, which has nothing to do with being an introvert. I am a speaker, but I'm also an introvert.
Yeah.
That's the evidence you're stacking. The last thing I just wanted to address was the trolls. So I agree with you. There is no point in debating with trolls. But the reason I made videos and I would snip their comment and I would make a video was the same reason that I actually did that. Somebody else who had done that showed me that this is how you positively react to trolls.
Yeah.
So the example they set is the example I wanted to set for future plus size women who are wanting to run, and me showing them, hey, you know what? You start running, it's okay. You're going to get Joe Blow from freaking, I don't know where, sitting at his computer, being a keyboard warrior, telling you so-and-so. It's okay. You're going to get that. But guess what we do? This is what we do.
Yes. 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 Yes to all of that. I was thinking about what you said about, your mom told you that you had no willpower, and that's like, we have to think.
She had no idea.
Right. So our parents, our guardians, our caregivers as kids, sometimes they say things and don't realize the weight that those words have and how long they stick with us. And oftentimes now as adults, when we have this negative self-talk, my new pattern is to ask myself, is that me saying that? Or was that something someone once said to me? Where does this belief come from? Was that someone else's belief based on their perceptions and what they believe is possible? Or is this mine? Because most times it's not mine. So it's easier for me to remove that once I realize it's not mine. It's theirs. Let them deal with that. Right. But also you being consistent with the running and keeping that commitment to yourself. You read Atomic Habits, so like how we do anything is how we do everything. So if you were able to keep this commitment to yourself, it has sharpened your skills and your habit in life to keep commitments to yourself.
100%.
Like I love it so, so much. The fact that it's like you doing these 5K runs a day, even if it had absolutely nothing to do with losing weight or, any of those other things, the fact that you have kept this commitment to yourself, how that impacts you keeping commitments to yourself in other areas of your life, how the compound effects of this habit will help your life tremendously, but also set examples for your children.
Exactly.
About what it means to keep commitments to yourself. Kids often, there's a saying, and I don't even remember where I got it from, but I say some things are taught and some things are caught. We could talk to her blue in the face with what we teach our kids, right? But they look at what we do. You are setting a beautiful example to your kids about keeping commitments to yourself, about self-care, about self-love, about all of these things that generationally are going to, you are changing generations. You are creating legacy. Like, I'm trying not to cry right now because I'm such a emotional person. but we
Oh,
don't realize sometimes something that may seem small, the great effect and impact that it is having on us and our life and our family and the generations of our family.
I agree.
Like, whew, like,
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I never
yeah,
even thought about that, McKinney. I was just focusing on them today, the kids today, and what I could do today. I never even thought about the fact that that could rewrite the future generations and their way of thinking about themselves. I, wow,
mhm.
yeah,
I
wow.
saw, I don't know if I can find it right now, but there was a post that I saw on Instagram, and I had shared it in my story because I was like, this is very powerful. But it was talking about generations of healing and how let me see, I found it here. When you heal yourself, you heal the people around you, you heal your family, your children, their children. Oh, where did it go? Oh, I lost it. Where did it go? Uh, Okay, I scrolled too fast. Oh, there it is. Okay. You heal the people around you. You heal your family, your children, and their children's children. You heal generations and generations. So what you're doing is generational healing.
Oh, that just puts it into context.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for the work that you were doing on you and future generations.
Thank you. And right back at you. Right back at you. Yeah. For our children and
Yeah.
anybody who they're going to touch,
Yes.
because it's not just our children and their families, but it could be anybody that they're going to touch along the way.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
the butterfly effect, right?
That too. Yeah. Gosh. Oh,
So I would love if you could tell the listeners where they could stay connected with you, where they can learn more from you and about you.
thank you. My handle on Instagram, that's another story, but yeah, that, no, I didn't, yeah. So my handle on Instagram is bigfit_I_run. So even if you just punch in big fit, I should pop up. And then my magazine is called Run Your Life magazine on Instagram.
Love it.
So
Love
thank
it.
you.
Uh, I will definitely have your handles in the details section so they could just click and connect with you directly. Um, I normally do a rapid fire at the end of every episode, but I feel like we have given so many gems just on your experiences and your story. Like I just want them to go back and listen again and take notes and highlight. And I want to thank you. Like I'm thinking about your experiences and your journey. And usually, the beauty of sharing your story is that, it connects with someone else. It connects with their story. There's something they can take from it. And it's like listening to how you've used your running journey, your 5K a day to heal. And I'm thinking to myself, it's interesting. Around the same time, like I don't run, but I do 5K every day. And sometimes on weekends I try to do 10. But it's like all the similarities listening to your story. And I'm thinking to myself, like my Fitbit, lets me know, every single day my average is like 5 kilometers and all that good stuff. But it's like we don't realize the patterns that we are creating, how generationally they are helping, and the beauty of running in nature and grounding, all of the practices that we are doing today to heal ourselves, how they're healing future generations. So I want to thank you, Sandra, for not just making the commitment to yourself, but sharing that with the world, sharing that with your children, being an example and, leading by example and showing us, what it looks like just to be the best version of ourselves, even when it's hard.
And even, being the best version of yourself, but even when other people think you should be a different version. and you're
Mm-hmm.
taking a
Mm-hmm.
stance on, no, this is my version, and I will
Yes.
continue to only choose my version over what anybody else thinks I should look like, I should run like, that we have to take a stance, and we have to teach our children that the version of themselves that they think is good enough is the version that they should stick to, not what somebody else thinks.
Yeah.
And the other thing I just wanted to offer here is that if anybody has a interesting story that they'd like to share in the magazine, all of the contributors are real people sharing real stories. So that's, part of this sharing.
Love it.
Thank you
Love
for
it. Love it.
having
Love
me.
it.
This was amazing.
Thank you, Sandra, so much. And to all of you healers out there, until next time, subscribe on all platforms. Don't forget to rate the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcast. I just want to thank each and every one of you that continues to listen each week to help the show rank globally in the top 1.5% of most popular podcasts, which is over 3 million podcasts out there. So it's mind blowing. But I want to challenge you to share your aha moments, share any gems that Sandra left with you, and screenshot this week's episode. You can tag Sandra at bigfit_I_run. You can tag myself at The Real McKinney Smith. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. So let's continue to heal her.